Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Coding and Philosophy podcast. I'm here with Jussi Hannula. Hannunen.
Hannunen.
Sorry about that. Yeah. And we have been kind of on and off talking about AI when we haven't had mics in our faces. And we figured, why not bring this discussion here? Because Jussi has a lot of really interesting points regarding that. And this would be a great opportunity. I hope that you're able to share them with the rest of us. What we're specifically talking about here is let's talk about the dawn of AI, or this like the ChatGPT and everything that has been kind of how it has affected the world. For example, students use it to do their homework, and artists are scared that, oh no, it's gonna take away our jobs because, well, people can just create art using that now. So, yeah, I guess I'll start. Like, how do you see this affecting the world?
Well, it's going to be the biggest thing ever. Just to lay that out there, my point of view is that it's going to be huge, much bigger than we actually know. And you said dawn of AI. We are definitely very early. So making broad sort of observations or proclamations what AI is going to be, we are very early. We are in the stage where in traditional computing, we are in the stage where Bill Gates or the founders of Apple were still in their garages. People who are going to found Google weren't even born yet.
Yeah.
And it would have been really hard to know from these hippies working in their garages on these long-shot companies that they would be the revolution.
These hippies working in what? Long shot?
In their long-shot companies.
Okay.
Steve Jobs and Wozniak were hippies.
Oh, yeah, that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it would have been really difficult to predict from that point, from that snapshot, where computing is going to go. And we are in the same situation basically right now. We just have almost no history. We have no trends to speak of on AI. We just have a snapshot, like you said, ChatGPT and a couple of others, and to make sort of long-term predictions based on that. I mean, it better be your job to do that, because otherwise there's no need to procrastinate at the moment. Sort of, so try to be the bandit who's going to be the right. Yeah. Whoever is going to be is going to say something that comes through was just lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there are people whose job is to predict the future, and for them we can give a pass. But otherwise, making broad sort of claims about it is a little bit is unnecessary. As an intellectual endeavor, but the reason why I'm saying it's going to be the biggest thing is that, and that's a prediction. But why I am saying that is that for me the difference between the good outcomes and bad outcomes is apathy.
Okay, can you explain?
So we are much more likely to get good outcomes from AI if people are participating in creation of AI. If people and societies sort of tap out because it's too big, it's too weird, we are likely to get bad results.
What do you mean tap out?
Sort of not participate in creation of AI, not participate in creation of necessary skill sets.
Can you explain?
Okay, so one of the things I think most communities, whether those are societies or smaller communities, will be creating their own AIs, some version of creation of AIs. And it's going to be a really important skill set for communities that they are able to create the AI that they want to create. So I think it will be relatively easy to make statements what kind of a AI as a community would want to have. It's going to be much more difficult to create that AI to match the desire.
Well, I mean, I don't understand how it's going to be more difficult, because you just need a set of data on a specific subject, and you just feed that to the AI, and it's going to learn to help you.
Maybe, but at the moment at least, AI will learn from the data, but the data can have biases and the data can have errors. So one of the parts of the skill sets of creating the AI that you actually want is working with the data. So that would be part of the. Also, at the moment at least, the learning process is managed, and it's more an art than science.
Okay.
So if you run the learning process twice, you're not going to get the same AI. You're not going to get the same model. And it is usually guided at least in when you're talking about on the level of what's the actual loss function that you're going to have.
But hey, wait a second. So isn't computer, like, the idea, it's predictability, because it's all based on basically math?
There are so many variables that it's unlikely to be exactly the same. You could theoretically have the same calculations. Yeah, you're right. But running it with the same parameters would be likely to result in a similar. However, if you are varying the parameters at all, it can be pretty chaotic process. So a small difference in inputs can lead to big difference in output.
Because of the amount of calculations. So, okay.
Yeah. And it's self-referential, and the differences can multiply, or they can disappear. And like I said, it's more an art than science at the moment. And also, it is relatively easy, potentially, for a bad actor to try to affect that.
How? Affected how?
So you are going to have a specialist, some experts who's going to do the actual training. That person needs to be explicitly trusted to actually input the right data and set the right parameters, to keep other possible influences out.
Yeah, because you want the AI to do exactly like every AI has to have a purpose, and the purpose is based on the data that you feed it. And well, if you feed it, let's say, bad data or irrelevant or purposely misleading, then it's not gonna be doing as you intended.
Yeah, and it would, in practice, an expert who's managing the training process would have other leverages that they could put into it. So they could change, they could like add code that changes some calculations. Just if we were to think about sort of bad actor, experts who wants to guide the AI to a direction maybe the leadership of the community wants, but not the community as a whole. So it's going to be an important thing for the community to actually be able to see and understand the training process.
Yeah, if you don't, well, otherwise you're just gonna be kind of led, unless you are actively trying to at least be involved.
Yeah, and that's going to be a skill set that communities need.
Now I see what you mean.
How to be a community that doesn't always need to be led. then that can sort of make judgments. Are we being led to a direction that we actually wanted to go?
But that has always been the case since the dawn
Sure.
of time. So I don't
we have now existing processes, conventions, skill sets to do that. We know how to run an election, for example, broadly speaking, or we know how to do safely sort of let people express their points of view. We have mechanisms for that. We don't necessarily have mechanisms that training AI in a transparent way needs. Like we know how to do dialogue, for example, just a big one. And that is an important skill set that communities have, or they can acquire pretty easily. They can borrow from an expert to lead the dialogue. At the moment, most communities wouldn't even know that this kind of skill set is needed. Like they would be like people who don't know that dialogue is possible.
I'm not entirely sure what you mean by dialogue.
I mean dialogue as a convention.
Okay.
Dialogue as a convention of having a discussion for learning and reaching understanding. Discussion that's not about arguments or negotiation or even reaching consensus. Dialogue is a discussion for reaching
producing new ideas.
Producing new understanding what the other person means. And just that. So that's convention that exists. It's a skill set that's relatively broadly available for communities that want it. So if community decides that we need to have a dialogue, they can, because they know how to, or at least they know how to acquire the knowledge.
Well, I would say, I always look at things from the broader perspective, and our ability as human beings to do dialogue hasn't changed over the course of history. I think we just have gotten new toys to do it with.
I would say that that can be, but if we look at different communities, some of them can be better at dialogues than others.
Can you give an example of a community? So
Pro Academia.
Okay,
for example.
The school we're in, yeah.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of people who know how the dialogue works, and people have practice in that. If we would go to almost any other degree program in this school, people would have less skills in dialogue. So Pro Academia has a skill set of dialogue. That's what and different communities will have different skill sets. Most that comes from what's useful for them. But almost no community at the moment has the skill set of training an AI in a way that guarantees that the AI is the AI that they want it to have.
Well, not yet.
Not yet, yes. That's one of the skill sets that we have to acquire. And that relates back to good outcomes from activity, bad outcomes come from apathy. So if you are apathic, you are not working, you are not acquiring the skill set. If you are acting, if you are working, if you are engaging with AI development, you are acquiring the skill sets that you need.
Okay, let's say that there was a new degree program that appeared in the world, and it would be related to what you're talking about, getting this knowledge on how to, train the AI.
Yeah.
Like, what sort of practical things would that entail?
I don't actually know. That's one of the things that I don't think that we know yet in the AI development. There are a few things that exist, like transparency. How do you do audits? That we can borrow from sort of previous practices. There's this new field of AI for forensics. So
just audits, from what I understand the word, it means using already existing AI to build some new AI, or is that?
Well, it could be part of that, but auditing means auditing the processes.
Okay.
Like if you have some similar to auditing financial processes.
Okay.
If you want to know if your bookkeeper is being honest, they get audited. So if you want to know if your AI expert is being honest, they can be audited.
Okay.
So that's one practice, and there might be these kinds of requirements that the AI expert, the AI training expert, has to go through, sort of report, and there aren't very many technological solutions for this. It has to come from some kinds of governance and trust in the governance. There are some fields that might be useful technologically. So there is this new field of forensics. So just like going and looking at the AI, what has been done, how it has been trained, and how it's sort of thinking and in quotations. And then there are things that might come to play, like in there's some in Web3, so blockchain. There's this zero knowledge field that might be useful. That might be used to make sure that the data that's actually inputted into the training processes is the data that was promised that would get put into it.
So basically making it more transparent.
Making it more transparent and make it technologically impossible to cheat in this simple way of saying that this is the data that we are going to put it and then actually putting in something else. So that level of bad behavior might be possible to eliminate technologically. But if you can do something more fine-grained or something more sneaky, that might be hard to detect. But the skill set would include all these kinds of things, but also things like how does the community come to agreement? What is actually our goal for the AI? And that's going to be very specialized decision-making process. But these are things that don't exist yet, but need to be part of the good outcomes. And that means that as a society, as a human community, the global human community, we need to develop new skill sets very fast, or we will have AIs that are super, super important for us and are working, we think, for the benefit of us as individuals and for communities, but actually have been trained to give preferential treatment to something that we didn't agree with.
Yeah, well, I think, if you follow the money, so to speak,
Sure,
that's where the money will lead us to, or that will be in the forefront of what AI technology is going to be. And I don't think that's not going to change because that's always been the case.
Yeah, there are parts of that's going to happen. The superscalers, Google and Microsoft and sort of hyperscalers, I think they are more commonly called. So the companies, the organizations that have global compute abilities.
And the resources to take the most advantage of AI and the new discoveries.
Yeah, they are going to be in a different category from the rest of us. And I don't see that like changing or like meaningfully in a near future. It would require just so much investment that like the only investment that is at that scale is the United States military. And like they like their military, they don't like anything, any other governmental investment, and nobody else is big enough. So it's going to be those global hyperscaler organizations who are going to be driving some of it, a lot of it. But yeah.
But the good thing about, or my positive spin on this, is that there's multiple of them. There isn't one entity that is basically controlling everything. And if one of them makes a mistake, then the other one will flourish. So in a way, they will have to keep in check. They keep each other in check. You know, Microsoft, Google. You know,
to a degree, to a degree. And I think actually, to a degree, that's enough. I'm actually pretty positive about that part too. The parts that I'm negative about are a little bit more different, like the changes that AI is going to bring about are so huge and so conceptual, and that I don't know how we would even theoretically be able to handle.
Well, but I would say this is, and we talked about this, how the same discussion that we're having now, they had 100 years ago when the industrial revolution happened, or when they developed the first trains, or when they, like every once in a while you have these, you know, landmark technologies.
Sure.
And then people, there's a lot of discussion, oh no, what this will like, it's the end of the world, basically. Kind of like, what's the word, Chicken Little, or the whole world is gonna come apart. So there's a lot of like, whenever there's a lot of fear regarding new technology.
I'm not Luddite. Luddite being the group of people who actually were breaking machines to try to slow industrial revolution down, and failed horribly. And so I'm not Luddite. But how I see industrial revolution and AI revolution being different, and why industrial revolution was smaller, at least conceptually, is that while in industrial revolution it take machines to do work that previously had been done via human or animal strength, the jobs themselves didn't get changed that much. You were still raising water from the bottom of a mine. You were just now doing it with a steam engine instead of using mules and people. People were replaced, but the job stayed the same. And especially conceptually, the train moved faster than humans were able to, or horses were able to, and longer period of time fast. But movement wasn't a new thing. It was just surprisingly fast.
Yeah, but it had like, it changed, or it had this, what's the word? A massive impact, because movement became so fast.
Sure.
People started to travel more, and there was, you know.
But movement had been important thing previously also. AI is going to change things that are done. And there's another, maybe something that's a little bit easier. Humans did get replaced, but humans hadn't been the strongest creatures around.
What?
Human muscle power did get replaced in industrial, but humans hadn't been the strongest creatures around. The horses were stronger than humans. So it wasn't it wasn't that we are the strongest things, and now machines are replacing it. In AI, we are right now. One of the things that how we think about what to be a human is that we are really smart. We are smarter than anything else in existence, and now that's going to go away. And that can be a disruptive, very disruptive, when our brain power isn't anymore the thing that sort of separates us from or makes us humans. I don't know how that's going to play out, but that's a difference. One difference between industrial revolution and AI revolution, where AI revolution is going to be conceptually begetting then.
Well, I would say we still like to go on your point is that the way I see AI being used now, for example, is that people just use it to enhance their work, right?
Sure.
So it's not replacing us the same way it wasn't replacing people. The machines didn't replace people during the industrial revolution. It's allows people to be more efficient and to people to do more powerful things, right?
Yep. At the moment, when we are really, really early, and we actually have a case study of this, chess. So, and actually, it's a useful case study because chess used to be one of those things that was seen as a hallmark of human ability. Like, chess is important. The best chess player in the world is important person because they are pinnacle of humanity, because they are so smart that they are the best chess player. And that was true in the 80s. So not a huge time ago. Then Garry Kasparov.
It was half a century ago.
Yeah, but still, yeah. Garry Kasparov, who to that point was the greatest chess player ever, lost to a computer in 1997 and 1998.
Deep Blue, I think.
Deep Blue, yeah. And Deep Blue was really dumb. Deep Blue didn't know anything except chess. And everything that Deep Blue knew about chess had been taught it. A human had taught Deep Blue to play. The algorithms were sort of learned. It wasn't doing anything that would be approaching thinking. But it was good at chess. And it was a big thing at the time. Humanity responded by taking this, okay, let's have computers make us more efficient. Let's have computers make us be better chess players. It was called advanced chess, or sometimes centaur chess. And it was a team of a computer and a human playing against another team of human and a computer. And I'm not a good chess player, so I don't really understand, and I can't evaluate the next parts that well. But I have been told that advanced chess was beautiful chess. It was better.
Advanced chess meaning?
Advanced chess, meaning the game of chess that was played by a human and a computer as a team.
Okay.
Against another human and a computer. And people who really don't understand chess said that the games were beautiful.
Okay.
And it was advancing chess, and human players were actually getting better. Advanced chess basically stopped to be relevant in about 2012, 2013.
But I see the advanced chess is kind of like well, a doctor using AI to
Sure.
help with the work, right?
Yeah, and that's why because it's exactly that.
Yeah.
It is humans allying with a computer to be better together.
Or is the machines aligning with the humans?
Yeah.
too, so.
Yeah, but so it started 1998 approximately and ended in 2012, so about 10 years ago, because the computers had gotten so good that the human participant in the team didn't contribute anymore anything. And now it doesn't really exist as a meaningful practice, because the computers are now have been since 2012 have been so much better at chess than humans that having a human there would be detriment to the computer. And the secret, and this is one of the I think important points, is that chess is a complex thing to be played, but it's easy to see who won. And that's the sort of the hallmark of a problem where machine learning is going to be the winner. Around 2008, people stopped teaching computers how to play chess and let computers learn through machine learning how to play chess by playing against itself.
Okay.
And one of the
so kind of like right, or AI using AI to, or like a language model using language model generated things to.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah. And the secret why swordfish, it's the model, chess model is called swordfish, became better, is because it played more chess than the humankind had played previously in a couple of years. It's really slow learning chess, but because it learns all the time at the speed of the computer, so it plays millions of games while we are talking. So you can't keep up with that. And when that kind of a methodology, that the machine learning, can be brought to bear, humans eventually will not be able to participate.
Yeah, well, not in the game of efficiency.
Sure.
So, and this is something I've thought about, is that I've heard the quote that human beings are the sex organs of the machine world.
Sure. Yeah.
So
in a way, that's true. I think I get the idea. And it is also true that humans still play chess, and popular chess players are more popular than ever. Although the popularity is a little bit of product of our other capabilities, communications, and just how rich the societies are. And that means that popular chess players can be stars, but they can't compete with the best chess models. And in chess, where it's kind of fun eventually, and we can easily have like different categories. This is a category where humans play, and this is a category where computers play. And you can't use a computer in the human category.
yeah.
That's easy to do and makes sense in chess. But there are a lot of activities, for example, the doctor, where it doesn't really make sense. If you want to get the best health outcomes, and objectively it is true that the computer is better at gaining health outcomes than the human, what ethical right does the human have to intervene?
What do you mean?
Like, if we know for a fact, this is hypothetical, if we know for a fact that the computer, the AI doctor, is better at treating, then human doctors need to be illegal.
I see. Yeah.
And that's where we are headed in many ways.
But is that a bad thing? Because I see that as...
No, that's a good thing.
the-
For me.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
not a doctor.
So we get a more accurate and we get more efficient doctors, basically. And those doctors are free to do, let's say, focus on art more, or like go into fields which are more, let's say, kind of... I see us, or as humans, since we can't compete in the game of efficiency with the machines, that we're gonna just say, okay, you guys take care of that, or you machines do that, or we're gonna just focus on entertainment and arts, and let's say the human... I think it might make us more closer as the human race.
Sure, it is possible. But and I don't want us to... I think we don't want to try to answer the following question, but the relevant question: what gets left for humans to do? And I don't know if we want to straight away try to answer that question. I would want to bring up a couple of points to help us gain some tools to actually answer that, what gets left for humans. And the first statement that I would want to sort of interrogate, think about, is this statement that AI doesn't think. It's not really thinking. I actually think that that's true, but what gets left unsaid about that is that what in that sentence, AI doesn't think. What do we mean by thinking? Because AI does do many things that a few decades ago we would have said is definitely thinking. The Turing test that you probably know, that that a computer can have a discussion with a human, and the human doesn't know if it's a computer or another human being. The ChatGPT does do that, and when ChatGPT did that, we moved the goalpost. Chess was one of those things. When computers started doing it better, we moved the goalpost.
Well, we're not... I wouldn't say it moving the goalpost. It's more defining it better what thinking actually is.
Yeah, but in the statement that AI doesn't think, I think a corollary, something that's related to that, is that humans do think. If you take meanings of thinking in the first sentence, AI doesn't think, and compare it to the word thinking in the second sentence, humans do think, you would actually be very hard pressed to find a definition of thinking that would make both of those statements true.
Now I'm kind of lost on these two definitions of thinking. Can you explain?
We don't have a good definition of thinking. But if we were to provide a good definition of thinking, let's say that we have a good definition of thinking.
But good is also relative. It's all relative, right?
But I will make a claim that any definition of thinking that you would say that is good would do two things. It would show that AI doesn't think, and it would show that humans do think.
Okay.
If you have a definition of thinking that says that humans don't think, it's a weird definition of thinking. And my point is that when people say that AI doesn't think, they are actually implicitly using a definition of thinking that most humans on most days don't meet.
Okay, now I'm lost as well.
Okay, so the requirement for AI to think, requirement for AI, for people to say that AI does think.
But like the thing about thinking is that or the definition of thinking is that, well, it is at the end of the day a philosophical question, and with philosophical, there's multiple ways to approach that, or multiple philosophies, multiple ways to kind of approach that.
Sure.
So there is no right or good or like correct way, or that isn't, how do I put it? The statement isn't, it's not an absolute. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure if I know, because I don't know if you are following what I'm trying to do with the word thinking.
Please explain.
So, what I'm trying to say that the statement AI doesn't think is meaningless.
Yeah, it is.
Because people don't have a good definition of thinking. And when they say that AI doesn't think, they are using implicitly, without really meaning to, a definition of thinking that most humans wouldn't meet.
So you're saying that people who say these statements, like you see them on popular headlines or something like that, but they actually haven't thought it through they haven't thought of it deeply enough to have any merit in what they're saying.
Well, some of them might have actually know what they are saying, but what they are trying to do actually is reassure people that it's going to be all right. And they are reassuring people in a bad way.
Well, how come? How is it a bad way? Because if I was someone who is, what was the term you used, of those people who smashed their machines? What was that term?
Luddites.
Luddites. If I was a modern Luddite, and then I would see a statement like that from let's say a popular or
you might feel better.
Yeah.
But you would also take license to not do necessary things.
Now I see. Yeah. You would go like, well, I don't have to worry about it.
I don't have to worry about it.
I don't have to think about this.
I'm not going to change.
Yeah.
I'm not going to learn.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's what I fear about the statement like AI doesn't think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's true, but it's not useful. Because AI is still going to take the jobs.
Yeah. But, I mean, like I said, I think the world is always going to be the same, and we're always going to have the same kind of things. So, I don't mind a person saying a statement like that, because I know that there's people, well, like you and me, who see behind it, and there's these people who are able to take, well, not in a bad way, but take advantage of that situation and kind of mend the world in the way that they see it would be beneficial. So they kind of, just as there has always been when there's a new technology, a lot of people get scared, and then there's a couple who approach it with this sanity.
And solution is found. What has previously happened is that when the solution has been found, people have been able to adapt.
Solution mean? Can you give an example of solution?
Like what do agricultural laborers do when agriculture becomes mechanized? Solution has been made. So they become factory workers and or office workers in cities. And that has been something that might have been unpleasant, disruptive, but people have been able to understand the logic behind it. AI, the solutions to AI are going to exist, but they might be so weird that people can't adapt. And to sort of illustrate that, I would want to examine the case of music for a little while. One of my favorite musicians, Nick Cave, and this sort of also dates me, so that's how old I am, said relatively recently that he's not worried about AI. Like, AI doesn't have humanity.
Kind of like the same AI doesn't think statement.
A little bit different, but more nuanced and more true, more obviously true. But there are a couple of approaches to see why that statement also is problematic. Well, misguided maybe, then problematic. First is to notice that Nick Cave, one of the best songwriters of this era, isn't being paid for his humanity. This maybe requires a little bit of a detour into Friedrich Nietzsche's theory of art. So just to give us a tool.
Yeah, please explain.
Yeah. So, and I'm not going to go deep. I'm just going to borrow a couple of terms from that. So Nietzsche said that art is an activity that has a Apollonian component and a Dionysian component. Apollonian meaning structured, logical, clear, purposeful. Dionysian meaning pretty much the opposite, sort of maybe raw, creative, chaotic, emotional. Okay. And art is activity that needs both.
Yeah, and regarding this, I heard a great quote on what makes a good song, that if it's too predictable, you become bored. Yeah. But if it's too chaotic, if the melody changes too much, then you're not able to track it. So you need to be in the between. Yeah. You need to kind of, when you're making a song, don't give what the listener expects, kind of alter the expectations a little bit, but don't also do it too much so it doesn't become incomprehensible. Please continue.
Yeah, and so if we use these terms, Apollonian and Dionysian, to look at music, then Nick Cave is a combination of those. But Nick Cave, in the statement, he says that computers don't have the humanity, don't have the creativity, is saying that computers don't have the Dionysian part, and he has, and that's necessary. So computers don't have the feel, they have the humanity or the feeling. But it is important to note, and it's pretty easy to illustrate with an example of a different type of music creation. Let's imagine a small child, a two-year-old, finding in the parents' kitchen a kettle, or a pot, and a spoon, and starting to bang a pot to make a noise. There's an extreme amount of humanity present there. But it's not valuable, and it's not something that we would be willing to pay for. The child is creating noise without almost any of the Apollonian parts, the structured parts that make Nick Cave the musician.
But then
but they have almost every part of the Dionysian part. They have the one to create the music.
The emotions.
They have the emotion.
Yeah.
And so that shows what we pay or what makes Nick Cave worth getting money in the society is the Apollonian parts of being a musician. And when he says that computers, AI, don't have the full humanity that he has, what he's missing out, that at the parts that he's actually paid for are not the humanity part. They are the skilled part, the structured part, which the AI does have. So, and that's actually something that is true, much more broader.
But that's also why I think that even if, let's say, the AI becomes self-aware, then it's not going to get rid of humans, or there's not going to be a war, because the AI needs us just as much as we need them. because
But for what?
well, the
The AI that makes music,
Mhm.
what does it need humans for?
well, well, let's put it this way: if the AI, let's say, would start to eradicate humans, it
No,
would.
no, no,
Well,
no, no.
let's say that's what
Okay,
happened.
sure.
Then it would leave it, let's say, incomplete. It would leave it.
Sure.
It would like have something would be missing. It wouldn't be have all the tools or as much tools as it could have to kind of utilize humans in a way.
Sure. And I don't think that when I said, what does the AI need humans for? I didn't mean eradicate.
Okay.
AI musician will still need humans to listen to music. Because most of the humanity that's related to music happens in the listener,
Yeah.
not in the musician.
So the point, if yeah, now I see what you mean. So that the point of music is you make it for humans. So if you don't have humans to listen to it, what's the point of making machines would never stop making music.
Yeah, why would machine make a music for another machine?
Exactly.
And I will get that to that.
Only to make more music.
Yeah, but if there are humans who are available for listening, 99% or even much more of the human experience related to music is still going to happen. We don't need Nick Cave. We need the sounds.
Yeah, and we need people to listen to them and to make a judgment. This is good, this is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the music can just exist. And humans are really good at feeling that this music is meaningful and this is where it starts to get tricky and where it starts to get sort of really weird how we're going to structure the society. What does get paid right now? Humans don't get paid to listen. They don't get paid to express their humanity in listening to music. Actually, usually they have to pay to listen. They are not being paid for listening. The human creating the music is getting paid.
But I would say today's the dawn of streaming, where people are actually watching another person have the human experience. That's the way I see what is happening, or why it's so popular. So in a way, that is
that is true. That's very new and that's very up and coming. Reaction videos also. Actually, many listeners might not even know what we are talking about in reaction videos. So it's that new. This case where the musician, as something that happens in an economy that has economic value, has economic relevance, musician as a profession or job that you can have might go away. And we don't lose almost any of the humanity of the broad human experience related to music, because most of that happens in the listener side. But we don't have convention of paying for the listeners. So where's the economy? And that's something that might happen in other fields also. The things that we are at the moment paying for are usually Apollonian. And we have a tradition of paying for Apollonian things. And Apollonian things are where computers are going to be better. They are going to be more structured, they are going to be more skilled, they are going to be relentless.
But okay, so tradition to pay for Apollonian things, what I consider Apollonian things are going to the doctor, paying for your school, paying for paying for some online course, and then what I consider the Dionysian or the opposite. Dionysian is going to a bar, buying alcohol and kind of drugs, and going to music events, going to these kinds of things. Yeah?
Sure. And there are others. And there are definitely a couple of Dionysian professions. Reaction videos is one. Sommelier, the wine expert is another. But they are very rare. So if we want to have economy around music, this way of thinking suggests that we should start looking at paying for listening. Not paying for the right to listen, but the act of listening would be somebody's job. And that's just weird thing to think about. That something that we traditionally haven't thought is worth paying would now be the foundation of economy. And that kind of thing, that kind of a flipping around, is something that I don't know how society would perform that.
So basically, in order to make the kind of train the AI, let's say, you would need to have these dedicated listeners who would make the judgment on this is good, this could be added to the... Is that what you're describing here? This should be fed to the machine?
Sort of, as an activity, it might have that element also, but that's also Apollonian. If you're providing the service of listening well, so that something gets trained better, that's still structured. That's still performing a competence, a traditional competence, traditional service. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I actually don't know what's going to happen.
Nobody else. Yeah.
But when Nick Cave says that he's not worried about AI because AI doesn't have humanity, I think it's worth noting that the most of the humanity related to music is humanity that at the moment is not getting paid. Most of the creativity, most of the value creation, meaning creation happens on the listener side and is not monetized. You don't get paid to understand music or enjoy music. That means that most of the things that humans find valuable about music aren't part of the current economy.
I'm not understanding what that statement means.
So, when I listen to music, I have an experience within me, and I enjoy it. It might give me feelings. I might sort of get meaningfulness experiences from it. That's humanity. Listening to music is enjoyable for us or meaningful for us. However, I don't get paid to have those experiences.
Yeah, but in the future, there's going to be, you're predicting or you're making kind of the assumption that that's going to change, that we are going to be having, well, what I imagine is, like I said, this is how I understand what you're saying, is that there's going to be a dedicated group of music listeners who are being paid so that they listen to a piece of music and then they kind of make the judgment on if it's good or if it's bad, so that it can so that the AI can advance, so that the AI will understand more on what is good and what is bad music.
Yeah, but then they have sort of become the creators of the music and they are directing the AI generation of the music. Yeah, I mean, that could feasibly happen, and probably is sort of midpoint somewhere there where that exists. But again, it is something where AI can get better at, and AI might get better at making that judgment than humans. AI might know better what humans like than humans.
Well,
but it is actually humans who do the liking. And why I feel that the statement in art, AI can't do X because it doesn't have humanity, is misguided, is because that's not what gets paid at the moment. So AI, I think, is going to replace the creation of art and creation of music.
The creative process,
Maybe.
but not the consuming
Not the
part.
consumption.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are still going to consume. And almost all of the human experiences related to music are going to stay the same. Because almost all of the human experiences related to music are on the consumption side.
Yeah, there isn't the creation is just that's, let's say, the boring process in a way, or it's the necessary process so that you can get the consumption, which is the point of the entire thing, right? So, and this is also why I think that machines cannot get rid of humans, because in order for them to understand, like I said, what is good music and what is good art, what is bad art, they need humans. And well, humans need machines to create more. We just, our nature is that we want more and more efficient and faster, and machines provide that opportunity. So we work in a symbiosis.
Yeah. And I do think that that's probably going to be a long-term outcome, of course. Would be my prediction. I think I know where machines are going to develop emotions.
Okay, this is a big statement.
And emotional intelligence, at least. Self-driving cars.
Okay.
Self-driving cars are going to benefit from having emotions. They are also embodied. They are aware where they are, and they have bodies in a way. And if you think a self-driving car or the system of self-driving cars to be better than humans, they can be singular, they can be automated. So just one car taking care of themselves, itself, and its driver, or its passengers. And when it approaches an intersection, it can figure it out by itself. When the system starts communicating within itself, so instead of just coming to the intersection, the car is going to tell other cars around it, I'm coming to intersection and I'm actually in a hurry. Please let me through. The other cars can let it through. Okay, this provides opportunity for cars to be selfish, or humans to tell their cars to be selfish, which means that the cars are going to start tracking other cars who's behaving selfishly. And when you look at what kind of logics they are going to develop to regulate that, those are going to actually be remarkably similar to liking other cars.
Well, I would say that the hurry, like a machine is never in a hurry. The human passenger might be in a hurry.
Yeah.
So it's, in a way, this is just them, the human passenger having an emotion, then communicating that to other, and the machine or the cars basically just transmit the emotion.
You could say that the car doesn't have actual emotions, and it doesn't have actual emotional intelligence, but it's going to have systems that are remarkably similar.
Well, similar, it's gonna transmit the emotion. I see machines never having emotions, but they are transmitting the emotions and helping us communicate more, right?
Sure.
That's the way I see the car.
And the car might try to gain a benefit.
Well, the car, but the passenger inside the car might be trying to gain a benefit.
Yeah, sure. It might want to use less fuel.
Mm.
There's something that's sort of deep within the car's self-driving capabilities. I want to optimize this. And that might lead for it to asking, can I go through fast?
Mm.
And if it starts to be a bad actor, so it's going to ask for fast passage when it doesn't actually need. So that means that it's going to ask it too often, and the other cars notice it and start to telling it, no, I'm not going to move away from you again.
Kind of like since the machines are all like a part of this hive mind, they notice a bad actor, like the body noticing a bad cell.
Sure. Yeah.
In a similar way, and then it needs to be eliminated so that
or
for the greater good.
It's not going to be trusted when it asks,
and it will that will leave it to not be able to do its purpose well, and then let's say humans might like demolish, oh, this car isn't working. So
cool. and it then becomes beneficial for the cars to actually be nice to each other. Nice,
work towards the common goal.
Sure. Yeah. But the systems of managing that reputation and trust that the cars will need to have are going to be structurally, logically very similar to what humans have in our social intelligence and emotional intelligence. I'm not making the claim that they are going to be exactly the same. I would imagine that they are going to be different qualia. But if they are logically and structurally pretty similar, it's going to be a very interesting thing to see that play out. And I could easily see like cars demonstrating behavior that is similar to what we would call liking. So they want to move behind a particular car because that particular car trusts them and has a good reputation.
I see. So a social hierarchy in a way.
So, social interaction and social, hierarchy, sure, but something like attachment, wanting to be close to that car. Do we call that liking or not? Is attachment even to like anthropomorphic human-like term? Maybe, but it is also something that I think necessary will happen in a system of self-driving cars. They will develop these kinds of capabilities. And when these capabilities develop in one field, they can be moved into another field. So, and like there are things that I would do if I was like had a lot of money and sort of whimsical things. I would create AIs that flirt with other AIs, just as because I think that would be funny.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that probably wouldn't lead anything, but if you have some kind of a emotional intelligence capability, social connections capability that's developed in the car world, and you add that to this kind of whimsy, I don't know where that would go.
Yeah, well, I don't think it would be I would fund if you started your project of an AI that would flirt with other AIs, because I like anything that kind of brings chaos into the status quo in a way, and that the AIs would have to adapt to that, because it's gonna be a problem in the future. So you're gonna have to deal with that at some point.
Sure.
So why not do it now? So definitely, I'll back up this project you're doing.
But then when we say that AI doesn't think, or AI doesn't have emotion, or AI doesn't have humanity. I think there are a lot of places where that could grow. Would be my more general or more, like weaker point. Like the cars will have a lot of opportunities for interactions where emotional intelligence analog would be useful. So I think that that's going to develop. That's probably for benefit of humanity, to be honest. Like if AIs can create or develop functional emotional intelligence analogs, that's probably humanity will benefit from that. But it also makes these kinds of broad statements that AI can't or AI won't, I think, misguided.
But like we talked, it's those statements are said, or the purpose behind them is to ease the minds of people. To let's keep everyone calm.
And I think that's a good. It's worth helping people to not be super anxious. But my fear is that these kinds of broad statements, while they might give some peace of mind to some people, they will also make people more passive. Like we talked earlier. How I would try to approach this problem of anxiety is by sort of looking at the hugeness of AI and accepting that and making the conscious decision, making the decision of an absurdist hero. I'm going to still function. Okay, AI is really, 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 really big. It's too big for me to understand. But I won't let that stop me from functioning.
Yeah, you don't fear it, basically. You embrace it in a way.
In a way, or I say that, okay, AI is so big that my activity realistically doesn't matter, but I'm still going to do it.
But I have a different point of view.
Yep.
In a way, like you said, these statements make people more passive. You know, from my perspective, I don't mind people being more passive, because it's going to leave the more active people are going to have much more of an impact, you know? And then, yeah, there's more active people. If you're prepared to be more active, you can really have an advantage, and that allows you to shape the world in the way that you see would be, you know, the best.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand the logic there. I am not sure if I am comfortable with that. We already have large portions of humanities, even in the developed countries, that feel left behind, and they still get to vote, and they end up voting for the worst possible person.
Yeah, but I think that's always gonna be the case. Like, well, in my that's why I don't really get involved in politics.
I don't. Yeah.
I believe that, in a way, communities, or what's the saying? If consumers had a say in the development of the car, that we would, like, what's the saying that or the story that people would have wanted more and more powerful horses rather than a car.
Yeah,
right?
better horses.
Yeah, better horses.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and that is true. And although I don't see that so much as a brilliance of the active people, and that the active people need this freedom to act, I don't probably agree with you on there. I think why, for example, car was destined to happen is that there were hundreds of different types of paths tried.
Mm-hmm.
The more powerful horse was tried, or something that was sort of like that, and it didn't work. How we sort of progress is that we try everything, and the things that sort of work get tried again, and then again.
Yeah,
and
I'm just to clarify, I'm not saying that when I say the most active people, there needs to be a two-way street. So there needs to be the people who want the more powerful horse, and then you needs to be the people who want to try out new things, or this, just as there need to be these, let's say, in a way, passive people, and there needs to be the active people. It's like everything I see is a symbiosis.
Yep.
And you can't have just, let's say, the active people shaping the world as they see fit, because they need input from the less passive people in order to shape it in a way that is more cooperative, in a way that is more better for all of us rather than just for those active people.
Sure. Yeah, that I agree. But I don't see so my point was just that I don't see benefit from having the passive group, because they could also be active, and it's usually better for the community if they have more active people.
Absolutely.
And the progress comes from this. We try everything usually, but okay, that's because I don't want to go to politics.
Yeah.
But what I'm sort of with sort of these imaginings, these the one prediction, and just wondering what's going to happen to our economy when need to pay for competence goes away. And that means that people won't have opportunities to get paid, to get a living income by having a competence. So I'm not predicting that. I'm wondering what would happen.
Okay, so since you have a lot of information, you have a lot of knowledge about this, what would you say, what would be the action plan, or what is something to prepare for regarding, like, we talked about the active and the passive people, and how can you, what's your action plan on the new, what should people be aware of?
So, and that this is where I have to a little bit step away from this, what we have been so far talking, because I see that as a more a longer term. There are things that people can and should be doing at the moment, and that aren't as weird as those things. And it's going to be I have this kind of a 3 categories that I think can happen at the moment. So, and I'm thinking in terms of mostly like small and medium businesses, or even micro businesses, entrepreneurs, students, more than big companies. And they sort of entrepreneurs, small and medium companies should be looking ways to, firstly, in the first category, do the stuff that they are doing right now better. And things like ChatGPT can be really good at this. And the activities that are beneficial right now, but just done more efficiently, done better. And that often will happen in sort of on the individual level. And then there are things, replacing things. Another category is replacing things, getting rid of things that shouldn't be done. Like eliminating middle management work mostly, for example, as a example. Like there's no reason why humans should be doing middle management in a way that's being done at the moment.
Yeah, so allowing the AI to kind of replace some people in a way, or preparing for that.
And also, most of middle management, team leaders, product owners, project managers, financial coordinators, usually aren't actually doing the job that they should be doing, especially team leaders. They usually have to do stupid administrative stuff.
Yeah.
And that stupid administrative stuff should be replaced with AI processes, and the people in the first place should be able to get to doing actually the job that they are supposed to be doing,
which is interacting with people,
which is interacting
leading
with
people,
leading people,
not bureaucracy, not
or leading a product or leading a project, and not the bureaucracy. So that's something. That's a second category. What type of things that companies should be doing? Finding places where we are being right now really stupid and doing stuff that we shouldn't be doing, and making AI do the stuff that shouldn't get done anyways, and let the people concentrate on the job description that they actually have already. So that's the second category of type of things that companies should be looking. First was the automate and create efficiencies in the job in the things that you need to do. Second, get rid of stuff that you don't need to do. And then the third is find places where AI would be able to do stuff that you would want to do, but it's too expensive or too difficult at the moment. So do the impossible.
So innovate with it.
We innovate with it.
Yeah.
Especially with machine learning. Things that are difficult, but have a clear loss function or clear criteria of what is good performance and what is not. If you can look at two performances and say that, easily say which was better, even if the performance is really difficult, machine learning is going to be better, significantly better, pretty quickly in that kind of environment.
Okay, so from an individual level, the way I understand those 3 steps is first, using ChatGPT, using it in my own work, using it whatever I do, asking it for help.
Mid-journey.
Yeah. And the second one is finding ways for that to replace some of the boring tasks, and finding ways, let's say, more ways of utilizing it in a way, or more. Hey, maybe this could replace this boring maybe I can automate this task with ChatGPT. And the third one is, thinking about how you can ways to use it in ways that it cannot be used right now. It doesn't have the capabilities right now, but because that will lead to, let's say, business inventions, that will lead to new innovations. And on an individual level, if you do all those 3, that's I would say a very beneficial citizen to have in this new dawn of AI.
Definitely, I think those are categories would be relevant to an individual. I'm thinking a little bit more of as a team level and up. So a couple of people working together and up. But those are sort of the 3 categories that I sort of think that I have identified of relatively low-hanging fruit that people should be looking at their own businesses. Sort of 3 lenses through which people could be looking at.
Hanging fruit meaning?
Low-hanging fruit is just an English language idiom for something that's easy to get.
Okay.
Beneficial, beneficial but easy to get. And using these kinds of categories as lenses to gain benefits early. And the gaining benefits early is necessary so that you can get the learning happening.
And you have the, let's say, advantage in this game.
And just to survive. Like, because efficiencies are going to be starting, your competitors are going to be doing that, and you need to match them in the minimum. But it needs to have benefit. It needs to have immediate benefit. Well, not necessarily today, but like we got like, and you have to be doing stuff so that you learn, and you need to get engaged with AI to learn and start building the more broader competencies that you will need when the next generation of stuff is going to come. And because it's going to be much weirder than the stuff we have right now. And like everybody's jaw kind of dropped when ChatGPT came. We are going to have even bigger jaw drops coming up. I don't know, I have no idea what they are going to be, but they are coming.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in the situation of the huge jaw drop and you're a couple of jaw drops behind.
Yeah.
You want to be moving forward. You need to get your learning processes going. And actually, something that you will need. And what are the psychological requirements for innovating? Though you need to work on those, because your company is going to be innovating constantly. And people are going to be scared. People's identities are being threatened. You will have people working for you whose whole sense of themselves is related to the competencies, the status in the workplace. And AI is going to threaten that.
Yeah, you're not going to be the expert anymore.
Yeah.
And someone else can be just as good of or get just as good of advice from an AI as you. And you need to accept that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, well, bad news.
But you need to make sure that your company, your team, is a place where people can survive when they are under threat. So there needs to be a high level of psychological safety. And many working places aren't like that. So if you know that your teams are suffering, or there's harassment, or there's cruelty, or people aren't feeling safe in your workplace, it's not a soft skill to fix that. It's the hardest skill, and it's urgently needed because your company cultures, your expert teams are going to be challenged with constant innovation in a high threat environment for the next few years at least. And the learning processes that you're going to have your people adapt are pretty tough. And so that's the sort of things that people should be working on. Getting the learning processes related to AI started with as many people as possible in the community. And then trying to make sure that the community is a place where AI innovation can actually happen. And those would be the things that everybody should be doing right now. And there will be, like I suggested, 3 categories of things that can, somebody will come up with better ones and somebody will come up with others. And they will come up with lenses, more useful lenses to look through.
But I would say the point is that you embrace it and you don't, like, you find it, because it's going to happen, it's eventual. And if you reject it, if you just refuse to look at it, if you start smashing the AI bots, I don't know how, but you you're not gonna have a good time
No.
once the kind of society goes, further, or like once the advances can start coming. Like you said, you don't want to be two wow moments behind.
Yep.
And
we know that can happen. Like there are companies that have missed the boat. Like in the brick and mortar age of stores, Stockmann was the most respected department store in Finland. And it's pretty much a non-factor in the online shopping.
Yeah.
Because
they didn't put any effort to that. They just, we're going to stick with this.
And they were afraid of developing their own store because it would have taken business away from their department store. So, and another example, Nokia.
Yep.
So Nokia has been told many ways the demise of Nokia, and most of them are true. But one of the major things that Nokia got right, the reason why they didn't sort of respond to iPhone fast, and was that people weren't honest with their leadership. Like I didn't work for Nokia ever, but I knew pretty early, several years before iPhone came out, that Symbian sucked.
Symbian's, what is?
Symbian was the operating system of Nokia phones.
Okay.
Their smartphone operating system, and like it was 1998 or something, and so it had like a 10-year history before iPhone, and everybody hated it. You couldn't go into a Tampere bar and talk to your like friends who were working on Nokia without somebody complaining about Symbian. It was so obvious from the outside that Symbian was a bad operating system that nobody wanted to make apps for.
But if someone in the company would have said that, they would have been ostracized.
Yeah.
And they would have like, okay, this is a troublemaker.
Yeah. So it was a company where you weren't allowed to be difficult or something. I don't know exactly. You weren't allowed to be honest about that. And that's something that I have to blame the higher ups. They had the dream team, and they wanted this success. They wanted everybody to tell them that everything is fine.
Well, I take the opposite approach. I blame the employees because they didn't speak up when they should have. I think they should have. I think a good employee, in a way, puts their job on the line for the things that they believe in. So that, I mean, there's blame to go around both ways, obviously.
Yeah.
Just like everything has. So.
And to an extent, I agree, but from the higher ups point of view, you want to make it easy for people to give you the bad news that you actually need to know.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that your company is a place where necessary bad news is as easy to give as possible. I actually might make one sort of where AI could be used point about that. AI doesn't lie unless you tell it to. AI doesn't care if the CEO gets upset.
That's true.
If AI knows what's actually going on in the customer interface or product interface or developer interface, if you can capture the hidden knowledge, AI is pretty easy to build an AI that will honestly and clearly report that knowledge.
But is this something that the higher ups are gonna look at?
And it can you can give it board membership, the AI. Like it is like you can put the AI in the board. You can use like voice synthesis to deliver that. It will be speaking truth to power. And that's a capability that AI has, and many organizations and societies could benefit from. But again, we need to be really good at making the AIs so that the CEO can't go and say, I actually don't want to hear any bad news. Give me a break.
Yeah.
See, and because the CEO's job is not to get is to get the bad news. The sort of, I would say, the hopeful thing is that no CEO, no leader is able at the moment publicly to say that they don't want to hear the bad news constantly. They want to surround themselves with yes men.
Well, you can't afford that because your company is going to go down eventually.
Eventually. So nobody can say that publicly.
Yeah.
They can actually want that in practice and hidden. But if you are able to take what people are willing to say publicly and make that the rule, that's the sort of the skill set that every community needs and every company needs. But the positive capability that AI has is that the reporting doesn't go from team leader to line leader and department head and a president and or a vice president and and everybody makes their reports sort of work for them.
Yeah, like a broken telephone in a way.
Yeah, in a broken telephone, and it gets a little bit better and a little bit actual message gets a little bit hidden.
Yeah.
And then the person who's actually delivering the message to the CEO in a boardroom can chicken out also, unless they are the AI. And so that's an opportunity for every organization to be much more honest within themselves. So stop lying to yourself is an opportunity for every organization. And the potential benefits of that are actually huge. If organizations would lie less to themselves, if communities would lie less to themselves, that would be huge.
Yeah. This is true. Yeah, I think, well, we've been talking, it's almost 2 hours.
Yep.
But I think to kind of sum it up, or like my own summary, human beings are going to be human beings for the rest of our humanity and the rest of our existence. And we get more powerful tools, we get powerful toys. There's going to be, I like to look at like people who are afraid of the AI. Just, I would say, read history and try to look at things from the big picture. Learn about the Industrial Revolution and learn about, well, things that happened before that so that we don't do the same mistakes as we did then. There's a lot to be learned from that. Yeah, well, those are my final thoughts. What about Jussi?
Yeah. It's going to be weird. Be prepared for that. And how to be prepared for that is psychological safety. Then I'll take your point for that you can look to the history and find disruptions or paradigm shifts. And that's beneficial. Weird things, big changes have happened before. And Industrial Revolution is, of course, one. You could also look at just a couple of things that are, I think, good examples. From maritime history, the caravel, which opened up Atlantic Ocean for travel, sort of cross-ocean travel and down the African coast, how much that changed. And a battleship called Dreadnought.
Okay.
that actually is one of the major causes of, say, First World War. Because before Dreadnought, the British had huge advantage, much more battleships than anyone else combined. Dreadnought was so much more powerful battleship that other battleships might have not exist. So Britain had one more than others. And that was much easier to catch. That led to a naval arms race. That was one of the major tension points in Europe that led to First World War. And that was just like one ship.
Yeah, a paradigm shift there.
Shift there. And there are different kinds of Freud might be considered as paradigm shift. Like before Freud, people were logical, rational, and Freud made us realize that we have subconscious.
Yeah, the father of psychoanalysis.
Yeah, and he was weird, and he was wrong about many things, even sort of dangerously weird, dangerously bad and wrong, but he was right that we have subconscious. And it has been since then, it has been really hard to claim that humans are only rational. We are much more than just rational. So there are these kinds of that are worth looking. Industrial Revolution, of course, and Caravel and Dreadnought are sort of my favorites.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
An amazing discussion.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll see you all in the next episode.
Thank you for all the listeners.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.